So this is the Caracal CAR816, and it might just be the most reliable fighting rifle on the market, but today we're gonna test it and find out. Woo! 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 Hey folks, Gary here with Paramount Tactical. So today's video, we're gonna be doing a very detailed review, and I'm tempted to say torture test, but we're gonna be shooting 1,000 rounds at a minimum through this rifle. That is not a torture test, that is a very good reliability test. So we're gonna be doing a reliability test on this rifle. And for those that you don't know, the CAR816 is the third generation or third iteration of the venerable, iconic, infamous, it means more than famous, H&K 416. You know, the H&K 416 was specifically designed to be essentially a bomb-proof, ultra-reliable rifle that was adopted by Special Operations, and they've been using it ever since. So if you take that H&K 416, give the engineers a little bit more time to do additional testing, as well as some tweaks in the engineering, that's exactly what you have. And I think, especially on paper, that's exactly what this is showing. And just so you know, this rifle is already adopted by many other militaries throughout the world, and mostly by their special operations of that. And just so you guys know, kind of my background, for those of you who don't, you know, I am a former Green Beret, did multiple combat tours. I was also an 18 Bravo. So, you know, I am a weapons guy through and through. And, you know, first and foremost, we're a training company. You know, we train military, law enforcement, and civilians. And I'm very particular about the products that we carry on our shop. The only items you're ever gonna see a review on, or items that you see on our website or in our shop, are items that we have personally tested, and I can look someone in the eye that is a military or law enforcement, or a civilian that is counting on a weapon or a piece of equipment for their life, and I can look them in the eye and say, you know what, I think that's the absolute best. So, you know, if you see in this video, I think you know what the end result of this testing is. And I definitely think that this weapon, and the engineering and the design that goes into this, and the testing that has went into this, you know, represents that level of dependability, reliability. And, you know, that's what we're all about. And that's what I want to make sure that we're always carrying and what we're always representing. So let's talk about what this rifle is. And by the way, I'm gonna put chapter markers down below because this is not going to be a short video. I wanna make sure it's detailed so you know exactly what we're talking about. We're gonna talk about the operating system. The other thing I will say is, if you're watching this on YouTube, folks, there's a lot that we're gonna cover in this video that I'm not gonna be allowed to put on YouTube. So for the full unedited version of this video, make sure you go check out our channel on Rumble, Paramount Tactical as well. Look, YouTube is not a friend of the Second Amendment. They're not a friend of the First Amendment. You know, Rumble is gonna be the place where we're gonna put our best content because we don't have to edit and censor it nearly as much. And again, if you support the Second Amendment, I really suggest that you start bringing your views over to Rumble. As of right now, they're much more friendlier to the First and Second Amendment. So for the first part of this video, we're gonna focus on reliability. So we're gonna shoot 500 rounds of this PMC dirty ammo through this rifle unsuppressed. And then we're also gonna shoot 500 rounds of that dirty ammo through a direct impingement rifle, also unsuppressed, and we're gonna compare them to, because this is a piston operated system. And later on, I'm gonna get this rifle in the shop. We're gonna go more into the specs. We're gonna go more into a comparison between piston and direct impingement rifles. If you want an ultra reliable rifle, I think there is a really good case to be made that piston ran systems are gonna be cleaner, gonna operate in more adverse conditions than direct impingement. Direct impingement is a great system, but I do think that for ultra reliability in the worst conditions, it's hard to beat a piston system just because of the inherent qualities of how this gun operates. I will also say that if you're looking to suppress a rifle, a piston system is a better host for a suppressor than DI, and we'll get into the details of that. But you can skip right ahead using the chapter markers, or if on Rumble, you can look in the description. They don't do chapter markers on Rumble, but I will have timestamps down there where you can skip right ahead if you don't care about the reliability or the range portion of this video. All right, so in preparation for the reliability testing portion of this video, I have stripped both of these rifles down and then re-lubed them with Lucas Extreme Duty Gun Oil. I do this with all of my rifles. If I get a new rifle in, the first thing that I'm gonna do, and I highly suggest that you do the same, is take that rifle apart, strip all of the oils and greases or whatever else, the preservatives that they potentially could have on that rifle, and then re-lube all those parts that require lubrication. Lucas has been making petroleum products for a really long time. They know what they're doing. They've engineered this oil for the operating conditions of a firearm, and it just has never failed me. I can't recommend them enough. They're on our website, and we always appreciate the support if you buy from us. All right, so what we're gonna start off doing is shooting 500 rounds through both of these rifles, completely unsuppressed. And we're going to take a look at, number one, if there's any failures. I'm gonna let you know immediately if we have any sort of failure that is firearm induced, not necessarily ammo induced. We might have some of those. I'll probably let you know if that happens as well, but we'll compare that. But the main point of this is also to look at, after 500 rounds, how dirty is this direct impingement gun compared to this piston ran gun? And then right after that, and I'm not gonna clean it or anything, we're just gonna take a look at how dirty it is, and then we're gonna throw on the suppressor and shoot at least another 500 rounds, and then take a look at, number one, is it still functioning? How dirty is it? And all of those things. So it's gonna be a long day of shooting, and instead of just getting out there and wasting a bunch of ammo, I'm gonna turn this into a training session. All right, so originally I was going to save kind of this illustration of the differences between direct impingement and a short stroke gas piston system. I was going to save it for the end. But the more I thought about it, I know there's a lot of viewers out there that you may not really understand how direct impingement works, much less how a short stroke gas piston system works. And I think understanding those differences is contextually relevant to the rest of this review. So we're going to go ahead and front load this. And I think for a lot of you, you'll learn something and you'll find this overall pretty interesting. All right, so this is our standard DI system. We can see as that projectile goes past the gas port in the barrel, that is going to redirect a lot of that gas up into the gas block, which redirects the gas into the gas tube, and then it takes it on back to the bolt carrier group. And this is how this system works. And we can see right here, as I pause this, and you can see how that gas gets ejected right onto, you can see the firing pin through there. You know, one of the things I always talk about in our tactical carbine courses is the fact that this is very analogous, that if we had a car and we took the exhaust of that car and we rerouted that exhaust into the air intake of that vehicle, it's very similar to that. So what we have here is a lot of heat and a lot of carbon fouling that's being dumped onto the one thing that we want to keep clean. All right, this is the engine of our system. We want to keep this free of dirt. More dirt is going to cause more friction. More heat is going to cause more wear and tear and expansion of parts. Overall, while this is absolutely a good system, you're not going to hear me argue that. It doesn't mean that there isn't room for improvement. So again, we'll watch the rest of this. There's feeding, chambering, locking, firing. You can see that gas go into the gas tube, down to the gas key. Again, operating that system. I don't care if you're talking about a direct impingement or we're talking about the piston system, we are still going to get a significant amount of fouling coming back through the breech. Matter of fact, that is where all that fouling is going to come from on that short stroke piston system, is coming back from the breech. You know, if we're looking at a DI system, I don't know what that percentage is. I don't know if that percentage is, 50-50, 60-40, but regardless of the system, you are going to get a significant amount of fouling that's going to come back through the breech. Can't get away from that. All right, so what we have right here is a short stroke gas piston system. This is not the exact same piston system or design that is in the Caracal, but how it operates remains the same. So we'll play this as we see the projectile go past the gas port in the barrel. Now that gas is going through the gas port up into the gas block. And then we see that gas provide the energy to push that short stroke piston system back, interact with the bolt carrier group, and that's how this is cycling. But the big takeaway here on a short stroke system, none of the gas that's going up into the gas block is making its way back to the bolt carrier group. Whatever percentage of heat, dirt, debris that is making its way back to the BCG on a direct impingement system, that is completely eliminated with a short stroke piston system. All right, so we know with the direct impingement system, we're getting a lot of fouling back onto the bolt carrier group and mostly carbon fouling. But on this thermal image, I also want you to take a look at how quickly the bolt carrier group gets heat saturated as well within just a few rounds. All right, we see the barrel starting to light up. All right, that means it's getting hotter, but look at that bolt carrier group. Look at it start to turn white. Look at this section right here. That is our gas tube. Look how hot that is. Look at the temperature differential on the upper receiver, and that's just within a few rounds. You can see the bolt carrier group is turning a much lighter color, indicating a lot more heat. But look at the entire upper receiver. That is starting to get heat saturated as well, and that's just a couple of rounds. You can see the bolt in there. That is still our gas tube. All right, so what we have right here is a CAR816. It's also a short stroke system, but I want you to see the differences in that heat exchange. We see the barrels start to heat up, the gas blocks start to heat up just like on the DI gun. But folks, look at that ejection port. Even when the bolt is completely forward in between shots, there is absolutely, it's just not heating up. You know, we're just not seeing the heat exchange. Now you can see on this video, the handguard is starting to heat up a little bit. We have a hot barrel, we have a hot gas block. You know, all of that excess gas is getting ejected out of the top of an additional gas port on top of the gas block. All right, so here we can see a top and bottom version of this side by side. Both barrels are heating up, both gas blocks are heating up. But look at the ejection port. We're not seeing the dirt, debris, and ultimately the heat making its way back and exchanging at the bolt carrier group. So all that is to say that, you know, with a gas piston system, especially with a short stroke system, you're going to have a system that's going to run cleaner, cooler, and just operate much longer given the same conditions of the two systems. All right, so now let's talk about the differences between those systems if you're going to run a suppressor. I think if you plan on putting a suppressor on your gun there and you want a hard use, ultra reliable weapon system, you almost got to go with a short stroke system, folks. Being able to control the amount of gas, which you'll see that we have an adjustment up here that's going to natively allow us to adjust or reduce the amount of gas once we put the suppressor on. The moment that you put a suppressor on either system, you're going to increase back pressure. With this being adjustable, folks, it's going to allow the system to get rid of a lot more of that gas. And it's going to, the overall system is going to run cleaner, cooler, and it's going to be adjusted to the suppressor much better than, you know, your standard DI gun. With a DI gun, a lot of times you're having to tune the gas system. You either have to buy an adjustable gas block, and on top of that, you're also playing around with different buffer springs and buffer weights. If you plan on running a suppressor on a, you know, a fighting rifle, an AR style rifle, folks, you got to take a hard look at short stroke piston systems for sure. And we haven't even got to the price point. I'll save the price at the end of this. But there are a lot of companies that are making some short stroke systems out there. Nothing wrong with them. A lot of them are good. I think the amount of testing that this goes through, the amount of service it's already gotten with the militaries that it's currently in use with, I just don't think you're going to find a better weapon system out there, and especially for the money. I think the value on this is pretty remarkable, to say the least. All right, so hopefully you have a better understanding of the difference between direct impingement and gas piston systems, and I hope you enjoy the rest of the video. This particular rifle is an 11.5-inch SBR, so it's perfect for CQB. and home defense. That's what I have this rifle set up for. This also is available in a 16-inch and a 14.5, as well as pistol brace configurations, because the Constitution has prevailed and the pistol brace ban has gone away. So you can get these with the pistol brace. These rifles are designed, engineered, and built for bomb-proof reliability. That's what this rifle is all about. Here is a clip from our podcast where we had the CEO of Caracal USA talking a little bit about that.
Everything that we produce is produced to, at a minimum, surpass the test requirements of the US TOPs and the NATO requirements for light arms and shoulder fire weapon systems. And within that is everything that you can possibly imagine to ever happen to a firearm, including humidity testing, saltwater testing, drop testing, vibration testing, dust testing, sand, mud, water, mixed use ammunition compatibility, extended fire for reliability and durability. I mean, the baseline, our baseline is 16,000 rounds in a mixed fire cycle, including full auto and burst and semi-auto, and with every 2,000 rounds, we shoot an accuracy test within that. And our standards for our accuracy test are well above what NATO and the U.S. military requires. Our minimum effort is going to be a weapon that would surpass any test requirement that could be provided for any government contract requirement, including destructive testing. I mean, I can take any of my products and I can press a solid projectile into the bore, chamber a live round behind it, fire right through it. No parts will leave the firearm. And depending on where that impact is in the lands and grooves within that barrel, as long as I have enough lands to restabilize, I'm still going to maintain accuracy, let alone have a functioning weapon system that I can still provide returning fire.
All right, so I think we've done enough talking. Let's get out there and do some shooting, do some testing, and see how this goes. All right, so we'll start off with just doing some warm-up rhythm drills from 5 yards. All right. Woo. Forehand's getting hot, folks, getting hot. But I will tell you, this trigger is excellent. This trigger for a stock trigger is about as good as it gets. It is about as good as it gets. The recoil pulse is definitely different than some of my other ARs, but I've mostly been shooting 14.5s and 16 inches, so I'm not sure if it's because of that. And the fact that this is 11.5 inch. There is a difference in recoil pulse. There's no doubt about it. Nothing big, nothing you're not gonna get used to, but it is a nuanced difference, and honestly, most shooters aren't even gonna notice it. Yeah, we're gonna have to get some gloves on because this forehand is definitely getting hot. Woo, woo. We're gonna have to get some gloves on. All right, so we went and loaded a bunch of mags, let the barrel, let the forehand cool down a little bit. But I do wanna put some things in perspective here. Any rifle, DI or otherwise, that we're shooting as fast and as much as I'm shooting right now, the forehand is gonna heat up, especially when you have a short barrel. But with that being said, a piston system, the forend and the barrel are gonna heat up slightly more, slightly faster than a DI gun that's putting most of that dirt, debris, and heat, dumping that onto the bolt. But that's one of the advantages of the piston system, is that it's going to keep the engine of this gun, the bolt carrier group, running cleaner and cooler than a DI system will, for sure. So while it might be a little quicker to heat up on the forend and barrel, it's gonna keep that bolt a lot cooler. I love this trigger, folks. Absolutely love this trigger. I'm still probably gonna end up putting a Elfman trigger, because I put Elfman triggers in all my guns, but this trigger is probably the best stock trigger that I've ever felt. The reset is short, crisp. It's just phenomenal trigger. So this is after about 300 rounds. The last 4 shots in my mag I put in the head. They were all in the A zone. But this thing is fast, it's quick. So far, not a single hiccup. Doesn't feel like the bolt carrier group is slowing down in any way. Let's go do some target transitions. All right, folks. So, unlike maybe some of the big YouTubers out there, I still pay for my own ammo. So I'm not just going to come out here and gratuitously shoot, 1,500 to 2,000 rounds without getting some good value out of it. We're getting ready to do transition drills. This is one of my favorite transition drills. We run this in our tactical carbine level 2 and handgun level 2. It's called the chaos drill. Now, if you're a Marine, you probably don't see anything wrong with the numbers, but for everybody else out there, you're like, oh, those are out of order. But this is the order that we are going to shoot them in. It's going to be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. And what I love about this drill, not only force you to apply the principles and fundamentals behind, good target transitions, it also forces you to think. All right. And if you ever come to one of our courses, that is going to be the thing that you walk away with, is that beyond the fundamentals, we teach you how to fight with a gun, not just shoot a gun, because this is what's going to keep you alive in a gunfight or in any threat scenario. Being able to think on your feet, thinking strategically, tactically, being able to problem solve under stress is the key. This doesn't solve all the problems. It can be, but it's just one of the many tools that you need to utilize in a life-threatening scenario. Anyways, so we're going to go ahead and shoot this. We'll start off slow. One thing I always recommend with any sort of transition drills is get as close as you can where it's still safe. Obviously, we're shooting steel. We want to be about 15 yards away, minimum safe distance. Some of you will say further, whatever. I don't care. You shoot the distance, whatever you think is safe. Obviously, if you're shooting paper, you can get even closer. But the point here is the closer that you can get, the larger that transition is going to be. The angle of that transition is going to be larger, and that's what we're trying to practice to begin with. Being able to see and then get our gun to a target as quickly as possible. So the larger transition, the more training that you're going to get out of it. But anyways, we're going to start off shooting this slow, and then we're going to speed it up, and then we're going to put ourselves on the clock and see how that goes. All right. All right, let's do some on the clock. $7:46. So if you're doing this, anything under 9 seconds, pretty quick. All right, we're at 7:46. We can shave probably a second off of that. 7:21. All right, we're shooting for the 6s. 7:03. We're not there yet. 6:59, but I think I might have missed 3 on the first go round. 6:34 clean. 6:34 clean. Can we get into the 5s? All right, let's try to go for 5. We gotta be quick on that first round. 6:48. That first shot was 0.39. 0.39 on that first shot. That was the fastest first shot I've gotten. Still trying to go sub 6. Let's see if we can do that. $7:44. I think we're getting slower. $5.98. $5.98. I look at the tape. I might have missed 2 on the back side, but that was pretty close. $5.98. 6:48. All right, we got to take a little break. Gary's tired. Hopefully that still works. All right, let's see how we do on this one. Miss on the 3, 675. I do want you to see this is actually more impressive than I was expecting, to be honest with you. For that many rounds, shooting that fast, we're at about 560 rounds. Just looking at it, that bolt looks pretty impressive. Now let's put 500 rounds to a DI gun and see what that looks like. All right, so I went ahead and loaded 10 mags. We're gonna take 8 mags out there with us, or I'm gonna take 4 at a time because that's usually what I'm carrying out there. And I believe it was 8 mags that I did with ready up drills, rhythm drills with the CAR816 before that forend started getting so hot that I had to put gloves on. So I wanna try to keep the firing schedules the same. And then I'm gonna do the exact same drills with this. Again, the intent here is to keep it as fair and the same as humanly possible. Ultimately, though, we're going to end up putting 500 rounds through this with a similar firing schedule. We're going to see how if we have any malfunctions, and then we're going to compare bolts after 500 rounds to see how dirty this one is compared to that one. This rifle is an F4 defense. It is a high-end rifle. I've never had an issue with it. It's been a super good, super reliable rifle. I don't expect any issues today, but we are going to see a difference in overall carbon and fouling. There's almost no doubt about that. But let's get out there and do some shooting. That was 2 mags, and I can tell you this handguard is already heating up. See what we got there. Light strike, we'll chalk that up to ammo. All right, so that's 3 mags. Heat-wise, this is getting pretty hot. It's awfully close to what I was feeling with the CAR816. Man, it might even be a little hotter than the CAR816, to be honest with you. This thing is smoking. Yeah, folks, we'll be putting on some gloves awfully quick with this. All right, so I was thinking the CAR816 was going to be hotter. I'll be honest with you, right now, my thought is this is either just as hot or hotter. Maybe I was shooting this a little bit faster than the CAR816 because I'm losing light. Maybe I'm rushing a little bit, but it's awfully darn close. And I definitely didn't, the handguard and the barrel wasn't as hot at 4 mags on the CAR816. Maybe I was shooting a little bit slower, but take that for what it's worth. I don't know if you guys see that. That barrel is smoking. Look at that bad boy. Folks, this is burning my hand through the glove. Ooh. What we got? Yep, another light strike. I don't know if that's a gun or ammo thing, but we'll chalk it up to ammo. Okay. Man, I don't know what's going on with this ammo or the gun. I'm interested if I take this ammo, put it in the other gun and see if it shoots. But I'm also going to give this gun a try to do that as well. All right, so I've taken these 5 rounds that all have light strikes, and I'm gonna put it back in the mag and give the F4 another chance to shoot it. Again, it may just be an ammo issue. All right, this is a student gun that we keep on hand for our tactical carbine courses, but I don't remember us ever having an issue with it. No, well, shot it all now. Whatever. All right, so we're losing daylight. We got to hurry. I'm going to speed this up a little bit. I'm still only going to shoot 4 mags. Go grab more mags, come back. It's exactly what I did with the CAR816. And I'm only going to break in and talk if I shoot this below 6 seconds. So we'll see how that goes. All right, so I got 4 mags on me, and I think I have 1 left over there. So let's get these done, and then we'll compare these bolts. And we get it under 6. Notice I didn't stop and talk last time. That should give you a clue that I'm not there. I may be getting worse. Freaking wasp landed on my arm. I stopped because I'm a... .608. 608. All right, so I'm out. 608 was the fastest I was able to do with this. No fault of the rifle. I mean, it's still pretty good, but honestly, it was just a car wreck that was getting worse and worse because, boo, I'm tired. All right, let's go compare these bolts. Check them out. All right, folks. So it's literally been like 3 minutes since I finished shooting over there. This gun's still hot. Both these guns are cleared. I double checked them, 3-point checks on both. Let's go ahead and do the F4 Defense one first. We do see a lot of carbon fouling right there on the bolts going on there. I'm going to grab one of these just as kind of a witness cloth, and we will kind of wipe that down, get an idea what's going on there. All right, and then let's take a look at the firing pin real quick. All right, so here we have our firing pin. You guys can see that's pretty caked up and kind of nasty. So we'll set that off to the side. One thing that's contrary to what I thought was going to happen is I do believe the F4 Defense barrel and hand grip got hotter than the CAR816. Oh, another thing I did want to say, the only thing that I've changed from stock on this rifle is I did add a Radian charging handle to that because I hate the stock ones. All right, so here we have the 816. Folks, I can tell you right now that is significantly cleaner than what we had on the, I don't know if you'll be able to tell, but it is, you can still see the shine on it. It's not caked up the way that the F4 Defense, or more importantly, the direct impingement, is probably not the most illustrative of tests. Still runs perfectly. Everything's good. We'll go ahead and drop the firing pin. Firing pin, retaining pin on this one does come out very clean. Oh, look at that, folks. Look at the difference. I think that right there is probably the best indicator of what's going on. Let's set this firing pin, retaining pin over there, and then that. I think if you can see that, there is hardly any gunk or goo on that one compared to that one. I mean, that is actually pretty phenomenal when you look at the difference between those two. And actually, let me zoom this. Like, the difference between these two is absolutely night and day. How much carbon is on this one compared to this one? If you look at the back of that, and see how much cleaner this one is compared to this one. You're talking at least, if we just go out the firing pin, at least 50, 60% cleaner than the direct impingement one. And again, I don't know how illustrative that is. I don't know how conclusive that is. That's obviously not very scientific, but you know, we're doing our best here. Without a doubt, the thing is going to run cleaner and cooler on the bolt carrier group. There is no doubt about it, just because of the system. Look at that. You can still see the shine on everything. I mean, there's definitely carbon on there, but for the most part, it is considerably and noticeably, I don't know how well it shows on the camera, but that is considerably cleaner than this one right here. Like, there's a lot of gunk on there that's not even coming off. I also want you to see how much effort it takes to move this. This is significant. Whereas this, much smoother, much smoother. That is going to continue to operate for a much longer period of time than this guy. I mean, that is crunchy. All right, so we're running out of daylight, and before it got too dark, I wanted to show you the suppressor. This is the Dominus SR. This is what I'm gonna put on this weapon. I own a lot of suppressors. I've shot a lot of suppressors. As far as the overall user experience, it is titanium. It is super lightweight. It is super quiet. You know, it goes on easy. I've never had to get carbon locked on. And I just saw on a forum the other day, somebody was mentioning, hey, you know what? There's no titanium suppressor that is full auto rated and has passed the SOCOM firing schedule. Well, if you think that, you're completely wrong. This has. You can go check out the information on their website, and I would tell you if this sucked or if there was a better one that I found. That's not my game. I'm always going to be truthful with you. I'm telling you, this is the SR version, which is if you want one that's full auto rated, you do need a secondary retention. It locks it on. But you can get the direct thread and you can get the compact brake version. I believe one of our instructors has the compact brake version, but he uses it on his precision rifles. And that thing is just as good as any of the other Thunder Beast arms on long range precision rifles. This does only come with a 30 cal aperture, but it's still super quiet on 5.56. And it just does it all, man. The overall user experience, there's nothing else out there. So whether you want direct thread or you want the compact brake or the SR version, you're not going to go wrong with any of those. All right, so we're at day 2 of this review, and we ran out of time yesterday, so we're going to resume today. I have not done anything to this bolt, haven't cleaned it, haven't lubed it, haven't done a single thing. So we're going to end up shooting 500 rounds of the PMC ammo through this gun, through this suppressor. With that being said, real quick, I did want to show you some features on this gun that not only make this an extremely reliable, hard use gun, but also one of the best suppressor hosts that you can possibly get. So right up here, we have our adjustable gas block, and it has basically 3 settings. Right now, we're in standard. All right, this is a standard setting. And then if we just rotate this to the shooter's right, all right, we are now at adverse conditions. So if you're familiar with, you know, running the M240 Bravo, M249, we have those adverse conditions on the gas block. And when the gun is just running hot, when it's running dirty, and we still need a little extra gas to keep the gun running, you know, this gives you that exact same capability on an AR platform. Now we can rotate this from standard to adverse conditions mode or back to standard without it pressing any detents or anything like this. As far as a suppressor host, we have a push button right here, little detent. If I push this button in and then rotate it to the shooter's left, we are now in suppressor mode. So what that allows us to do without any modification to the gun, I don't have to, you know, change out my buffer spring or anything like that. It's gonna make it much more conducive, much more comfortable to run a suppressor. I've ran a suppressor in all 3 modes. They function perfectly. Are you getting more blowback in the standard and the adverse conditions? Absolutely, but they'll still run. And after the reliability testing that we're getting ready to do, I'm gonna take this back in the studio and we're gonna break this all apart. I'm gonna show you how this is working from a mechanical standpoint. But other than that, we're gonna run 500 rounds through the suppressor, and I'm going to replicate the same firing schedule that we did yesterday. I'm gonna do the exact same drills for the same amount of magazines, and you know what? We'll go from there. So I will see you on the flip side. All right, so that is 3 mags with no issues whatsoever, but it's time to go get some gloves on. So that's all the first 4 mags, absolutely no issues whatsoever. The gun is hot, there's no doubt about it. So we're gonna let that cool off just a little bit, and then we're gonna load up and keep going. All right, so we let things cool maybe 3 or 4 minutes tops, but we're gonna get right back into it. Woo! Folks, now I'm just dumping rounds. All right, so we went through 7 mags in a very short amount of time. We're gonna let this thing cool down a little bit, and I'm gonna let my hand cool down a little bit. All right, so we were able to get 7 mags through the 5-round ready up drills before, I mean, honestly, we're just heating this gun up so much that it's burning my hand even through the glove, but that's what we expect. Exact same thing would definitely happen even if we had direct impingement. And honestly, running this many rounds through it with the suppressor as fast as we're running those rounds, I mean, this really is a torture test at this point. But we are going to slow things down just a little bit and go ahead and run this chaos transition drill. I'm running at least 10 rounds if I don't have any misses on this. So it's still a lot of rounds in a very short amount of time. But let's go ahead and do this and see how we do with the suppressor. .664 with the suppressor, not too bad. 630. Not too bad. That was just garbage all the way around. Woo! 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 All right, we got through 3 more mags. We're gonna take a little break, let this gun cool. All right, so I've let this thing cool for about 20 minutes and let myself cool off a little bit. Woo! Hands were hot in that one. Hands were hot. We're 701 with hot hands. All right, we're gonna finish out the rest of this mag. This gun needs to cool some more. All right, let's do a quick mag dump on this. All right, I think I only have 2 mags left out of that 500. So, I mean, as you can see, it's still running excellent. Suppressed, dirty ammo. So far, I've not had a single malfunction whatsoever. So right now we're looking pretty good. All right, so we are down to our last 2 mags, and well, let's just get it done. All right, guys, last mag. Ah! Yeah. So if I hadn't had that miss, that would have been 593. I don't know if you can see that or not. But I had a miss because I like to suck. All right, so that was 500 rounds through the suppressor. Total of 1,000 rounds through this gun. No cleaning, no lube, no nothing. I mean, I don't know. We did a little bit of the kind of dabbed some off on that napkin to give you a little bit of idea of how much, carbon buildup was on that. But other than that, you guys have seen everything that I've done. All right, so here's our BCG. Everything is still functioning just fine. There's definitely carbon on it. It's definitely dirty, but again, we had no problems with it functioning. And I am quite certain I could take this gun out there and do another 1,000 rounds, suppressed or unsuppressed. I don't think it'd matter. Without adding any lubrication or anything else, I think it'd work absolutely just fine. Because right now we have it on the suppressor setting, which is it's the most constrictive, giving the least amount of gas to the system, period. So if this really started to bog down with the suppressor, we could put it on the standard setting. Worst case scenario, we could open it up to the adverse condition setting, and this thing is still gonna run. All right, so let's go ahead and remove our firing pin, see what that looks like. I mean, honestly, go run 500 rounds through a DI rifle, especially a PMC, and see if it looks anything close to that. Here's our cam pin. Let me take the bolt out itself. Again, I've seen much worse bolts with a lot less rounds, when you're running a DI. All right, so this has been a really fun, but it's been a long review. And it's time to wrap it up. I'd rather provide you too much information than not enough. Again, I know anytime that you're possibly buying something, you want to be as well informed as possible. You want to be able to trust that product and ultimately trust the person providing you the review. So I'd rather give you too much information than not enough. It just comes down to that. I know that's not always the best formula for YouTube or some of these other things, but that's what we're going to stick with because I think it's the right thing to do. All right, so with all that being said, I am getting ready to provide you a summary of my thoughts, provide you some as objective as possible subjective ratings and a few different categories on this. But before we did that, one thing that I owe you is to talk a little bit about the short stroke system on this. So we can just pull this out. You got to rotate it, you got to hit the detent, and then you basically turn it 180 degrees. But this is the short stroke piston assembly. And I want to show you what's going on with this so you understand how this mechanically works and talk about a little other kind of key features and just good information to have if you end up purchasing one of these. So if we look right here, we can see we have some gas ports. So that smallest port is the gas setting for the suppressor. It's suppressing the amount of gas going in there for your suppressor. That greatly reduces the amount of back pressure. It definitely reduces a lot of the blowback that you're getting. I didn't experience any of that. This does a really good job, at least with this suppressor. If I tested 10 other suppressors, we might get some slightly different results. But at least with this suppressor, the amount of blowback that you're getting in the face was negligible. I didn't notice the difference between the standard setting with it unsuppressed versus the amount of blowback that I'm getting in my face with it suppressed in the suppressed setting. So take that for what it is. Here in the middle, we have that medium hole. That medium hole is a standard operating position. Just to the right of that, significantly larger hole, and that is our adverse condition setting. So this is how this works. Now, I have since cleaned this weapon system since we ran all those rounds in there. I have not, however, cleaned the short stroke piston system. As a matter of fact, I think you could probably go another 20, 30,000 rounds without cleaning this. It's just the way the piston system works, in the same way that your gas tube, you don't ever have to clean your gas tube in your standard DI guns because it's a high pressure system. This is there's not too many moving parts. We got a spring here. Should you clean it from time to time? Yeah, as a matter of fact, I'm going to clean this one. Anytime that I'm doing an intermediate cleaning of my rifle system, I'm going to pull this out, spray it down with some carbon remover, wipe it down, and then put a little lubrication on it. You do not have to. You can if you want, but there is no reason to where we are, completely stripping this of carbon every single time. You can, and I'll tell you, when it comes down to it, even though we could leave this in there for 30,000 rounds, maybe indefinitely without ever cleaning this, doesn't mean you should, right? We need to have some level of basic rifle maintenance that is going to ensure that your rifle is always operating. It's going to make the rifle system last longer. And I think most importantly is it's going to mitigate problems in the worst case scenario. So that is what I'm always thinking about when I'm cleaning my rifle. Yeah, my rifle's dirty. I just came from the range. Maybe I won't need it. I don't know, but maybe I will. Maybe a home defense situation will come up to where suddenly I'm now pushing this rifle more than I thought I would have to, maybe in the rain, in the mud, whatever it is. That is always my thought process behind rifle maintenance, is making sure that when I go to grab that rifle, it's going to operate the way that I need it to. So take that for what it is. As far as reassembly, pretty simple. Right up here, we have what I would consider kind of our selector switch portion, but the rest of this body rotates. All right, the rest of the assembly rotates, and it does need to be in the correct orientation for this to assemble properly. Easiest way to do that is go ahead and stick this in regardless of what it looks like. And then all we're gonna do is I'm gonna rotate this until it seats most of the way. All right, so it's seated almost all the way. We got about a ½ inch sticking out there. And then you're just gonna rotate this portion one way or the other to where we have this rim, and then it seats flush. And then all we're gonna do is rotate that until it clicks in, and now it's reassembled, and it is in the standard operating position right now. It's at the 12 o'clock, center of those three gas ports. So now this is good to go. So that's what it takes to reassemble. Very easy, very cut and dry, easy to wipe down and clean as well. So I owed you that because I hadn't covered that throughout the review. All right, so now what we're gonna do is I'm gonna give you my overall thoughts of performance, the pros and cons, and then I'm gonna give you some overall scores in a couple of different areas. So let's go ahead and knock out the negatives first. All right, folks. Well, I hope you found that helpful. I hope you found that informative. I'm sure I left some things out. So if you have any questions, leave those down in the comments below. And, while guns and gear are great, what we're really about is training. So make sure you go to ParamountTactical.com. Go check out our upcoming training schedule. We'd love to have you out. We'd love to meet you in person. Tactical carbine courses, medical courses, long range courses, handgun courses, low light courses, driving courses. We cover it all. And we have instructors with the backgrounds to provide you that training with a level of credibility just not going to find anywhere else. So make sure you go check out that training schedule. Come train with us. You'll be glad you did. And for all your gear needs, make sure you go to ParamountTactical.com, where we only carry gear that we've personally tested and we believe in. But until next time, stay armed, Stay ready. We'll talk to you soon.